What if I told you that a guy with no food industry background, no major funding, a defunct factory built the number one yogurt brand in America in just a few years? Welcome to the Growth Class. I'm Phil Masiello, entrepreneur, brand builder, and founder of Crunch Growth Revenue Acceleration Agency. And today's topic is the story of Chobani, a brand that disrupted an entire category by doing things differently, not louder, not faster, just better. And this is how they turned Greek yogurt into a $1 billion household staple. So let's get into it. As an entrepreneur and brand builder, I love the story. It just shows how far you can go when you're different and you stand out from your competitors. As a customer, I love Chobani. And if they could figure out how to get the flavor of graham cracker in here, not crumbs, but the actual flavor of graham cracker into the key lime, I swear to you, it will taste just like a key lime pie. It is my favorite flavor. I've loved Chobani since they started. So let's get into the backstory a little bit. It's founded by Hamdi Ulukaya. He was born in a dairy farming Kurdish family in 1972 in Ilik, a small village in Turkey. He had 6 siblings. His family owned and operated a sheep, goat, and dairy farm where they made cheese and yogurt. He studied political science in Ankara University, and in 1994, he moved to the United States to study English at Adelphi University on Long Island in New York. In 1977, he moved upstate and transferred to the University of Albany, State University in New York, where he enrolled in a few business courses. But he ended up taking a job on an upstate farm. And during a visit, his father persuaded him to import the family's feta cheese from Turkey after tasting what he deemed inferior cheese available locally. So Ulukaya opened up a small wholesale feta cheese plant of his own, called it Euphrates, in Johnstown, New York in 2002. The venture was modestly successful, but by the 2-year mark, it had just barely broken even. He later recalled, "It was 2 years of the most challenging days of my life." Anybody who's ever founded a business, the first 2 years, the first 3 years, very, very difficult. And he admits it. It was a very difficult time. So in the spring of 2005, Ulukaya saw an advertisement for a fully equipped yogurt factory for sale in South Edmonston, New York, 65 miles west of his feta cheese factory. The 84-year-old factory had been closed by Kraft Foods. He toured the plant the following day and he decided to buy it. He financed the purchase with a loan from the SBA, plus local business incentive grants. He initially named his new company AgroPharma and hired a handful of the former Kraft employees. But he decided to make an alternative to American-style yogurt, preferring the yogurt he grew up with in Turkey. He hired a yogurt master from Turkey, with whom he spent nearly 2 years developing his own yogurt recipe. And to manufacture strained yogurt, which is what he was used to, which is what was different than what was available in America, he needed $1 million commercial machine called a milk separator, which the American-style Kraft factory did not have. So he found a used one in Wisconsin, and he negotiated to buy it for $50,000. On his trip to pick up the separator, the name Chobani, a variation of Koban, the Turkish word for shepherd, occurred to him. So now we get to the product. Now here's where it gets interesting. Chobani didn't just add a product to the shelf. They redefined the category. Greek yogurt is strained, which makes it thicker. It's higher in protein, lower in sugar, and it's more filling and nutritious. And at that time, that wasn't the norm. Again, we're going back to 2005, 2006. Chobani made a healthy product taste good and feel premium. At that point in time, we had Yoplait, we had, private label. So we didn't have anything like this. And he did it with simple, natural ingredients. But here's the kicker. They priced it accessibly, not niche, not elite, just better. In October 2007, 2 years later, he shipped his first order of Chobani, a few hundred cases to a grocer on Long Island. The store repeated the order the following week. His early business approach included strategies larger companies did not use. Remember, he didn't have a lot of money. So rather than pay stores a slotting fee, which his startup company could not afford, he paid stores in yogurt rather than cash to stock his wares. So he negotiated to pay off the slotting fees over time as the yogurt sold, which is very smart to do. Slotting fees are very difficult. Anybody who's ever gone into retail will tell you that it's a killer. And so he implemented in-store samples so customers could taste the product, and as long as they tasted it, they fell in love with it, and then they would purchase it immediately. So lacking the budget for traditional marketing, again, lacking the budget for traditional marketing, he had to think outside the box and be a little bit more creative. So after hearing customers phoning in to say that they love Chobani, Ulukaya had his small team reach out to bloggers, Facebook, Twitter to have constant and direct communication with customers. Now, remember, we didn't have Instagram in 2007, 2008. We had Facebook, we had Twitter. There were a couple of other ones, but not like we have today. No TikTok, none of that. YouTube didn't have shorts. They had videos. So in 2010, he also created a sampling truck, which I love this idea. He called it the Chomobile, which handed out free cups of Chobani yogurt at festivals, parades, and other family-friendly events all over the U.S. In its first year, the sample truck gave away 150,000 full-size containers of Chobani. So now that sounds like a lot, 150,000 samples. But when you think about your customer acquisition cost for running ads or doing other things, 150,000 samples, maybe at his true product cost was probably $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 max. But and then with the truck and getting there, so he got probably the value of about $5 or $10 million worth of advertising out of that. So it's a great way. It was a great way of him to spread the word. So then, when it comes to branding and packaging, his packaging was a breakthrough. Since he couldn't afford advertising, he invested time and money on the product's packaging. Again, it had to stand out on the shelf, jump out at the customer, and using a distinctive bowl style, because this has been his package since the beginning. This bowl style, it's everybody sees it now, but at the time it was completely different. Again, you had Yoplait, you had regular yogurt, which was generally in a stand-up, so it stood out and it was shaped different. And when you think about this, think about another brand called Truff and what they did with their package to stand out in the hot sauce category. So packaging becomes extremely important. And instead of plastic tubs with garish colors and fake fruit images, his design felt artisan and clean. Again, it does. It still looks great to me. Looked like something from a farmer's market, modern, minimal, real. But this visual identity built trust on the shelf. It screamed, this is something different. And it worked because in a split second on a crowded shelf, design sells. Think about that. It costs, you have to get your package done anyway. So you might as well make it as great as you possibly can. And then here's the important part, his growth strategy. Here's where most startups get stuck. Great product, no traction. But Chobani crushed this part. First, free sampling, tons of it. Hamdi knew if people tried it, they'd switch. So he invested in getting the product into mouths, not just ads on screens, getting the product into people's mouths. And again, you're talking about your true product cost. You go and you have your product manufactured. You know what your true product cost is. When you can get it into a customer's hands and try it, it's less expensive than trying to run ads and trying to get conversions that way. Second, he did retail first. Again, e-commerce was strong, but not as strong as retail was at the time. So he hit retail first. He hit the shelves in Whole Foods, scaled into mass retailers like Costco and Kroger. But here's the smart part. They built their own in-store merchandising team. So rather than relying on brokers or salespeople, he built his own merchandising team, went around and controlled how the brand looked and where it was placed. Third, they own their own manufacturing. A lot of companies out there today outsource the manufacturing, but he owned it, which is huge because he was able to control it. So most food startups outsource. He built the largest yogurt plant in the US. This let them scale fast and keep costs low. And again, when you listen to and when you read about him, he negotiated very strongly, negotiated with cities and towns to get that get money, get funding, wherever he could get it from, because he didn't take investor dollars. He didn't have any money of his own. So he was using SBA loans and loans from towns and cities. And the results, his company doubled its sales every year through 2013. In December 2012, at the end of 2012, the company opened the world's largest yogurt factory in Twin Falls, Idaho. So he had one in New York and then one in Idaho. In 2012, Chobani had gone now in 5 years from the 5 year point of shipping their first product to 1 billion in annual sales. And in 2012, it became the world's leading yogurt brand. 5 years from when he shipped his first batch of yogurt, he accomplished this. It's unbelievable to me. By 2017, he reached a US market share of Greek yogurt of over 50%. And April 20th, 2016, he announced to his employees that he'd be giving them 10% of the shares in Chobani. Now, we move on to the last part, which is the brand with a purpose. But Chobani's real edge, his values. From the beginning, Hamdi focused on doing business the right way. He hired refugees, immigrants, supported local dairy farmers, offered generous benefits to factory workers. He started the Chobani Foundation to fight food insecurity. And this just wasn't marketing fluff. It was the core of the company, and consumers felt that. So in a world full of fake brand purpose, Chobani was the real deal. He stated that the higher wages for his employees leads to a greater corporate success. The higher wages he paid led to greater corporate success. He said that businessmen should promote a sense of purpose in their corporate culture to create a climate of positive change in business and the world. He said companies should focus on humanity and not just their bottom lines. The plant in Twin Falls is the largest in the world and pays its workers twice the minimum wage. That's where he starts. He started offering 6 weeks of paid leave to new parents as a result of his own experience when his son was born. And the policy ensures that his employees have the needed time to bond with their newborn, covers adoption, foster care, same-sex couples as well. So in the wake of growing food prices, Ulukaya criticized food makers for passing on rising costs to their consumer. He criticized companies for chasing profits and stated that they need to focus on social responsibility. He stated that businesses were more than happy to raise prices during inflation, but slow to bring them back down when costs drop. Ulukaya has been committed to making affordable and nutritious foods using only natural ingredients. So you see, what he's doing here is he's telling the customer what he's all about. He's communicating with the customer. He's making a connection with the customer, and the customers appreciate it. Now they say to themselves, well, I know he's made such a big deal out of this. I know he's not gouging me when the prices go up. And when the prices go up, if inflation stops, he brings the prices down. So he's creating that connection with his customers. And he's moving over 1 million cases a week. The word Greek yogurt became synonymous with Chobani, just like Kleenex became synonymous with tissues. But they didn't stop there. He's continuing to go. Chobani flip snack packs, non-dairy yogurt alternatives. He's got oat milk and plant-based drinks, even a Chobani cafe. So they became not just a yogurt brand, but a modern food company. And you cannot walk away from this without understanding these lessons. So what can we learn? He started with a better product, made it accessible, not elite, built trust with design and transparency, owns their execution from factory to shelf, and most of all, he led with a purpose. Hamdi Ulukaya didn't just build a billion-dollar brand, he built a movement. And he proved you don't need a marketing budget the size of Coca-Cola's. You just need something worth talking about. And this is something I talk about to our clients. I talk about it to the mentees that I deal with, the entrepreneurs, anybody starting a brand. And I don't care if it's a single purpose brand, if it's a physical product brand, or if it's a SaaS product or a B2B brand. You're building a brand. And you have to be different. You have to be purposeful, because nobody wants to connect with you if you're just saying, I'm a me too and my price is better. You're never going to survive. So that's how Chobani changed the industry and why their story matters for every founder, marketer, and entrepreneur. And again, as an entrepreneur, as a brand builder, as someone who owns an agency, I love this story because it is so full of learnings. And what it just shows that if you're different and you go out there with a purpose, you can make a difference. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you got something out of it. And we'll see you next time.